In this video, we are going to be testing the brand new Futaba GYD470. I am going to show you full setup, how I go through setting it up, installing it in my drift car, and then giving it a test to see what I think about it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy and this is Roadside RC. You'll tend to find me bashing and crawling and drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And today we're testing this brand new gyro to see how does it perform. The first step is to get this out of the box and see what we have inside here. We do have instructions, we have a limited warranty card. And then we have the gyro itself along with the wires, and it does come with some double-sided adhesive, which is super nice and convenient. The first step for this installation is just putting on the double-sided tape and then attaching both of the included wires. They can only go in one way because they are offset. I am then going to mount this probably right down here on the chassis. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific, either vertically or within the distance of the chassis, as long as it is on a vibration-free surface. It doesn't matter front, rear, side, top, bottom, none of that actually matters. You just want to put it somewhere on the chassis vibration-free. So you would not want to put it on the servo itself, and that's why it also includes this double-sided tape. You will then connect your servo to the first connection point here. The middle connection point goes to channel 3 on your receiver, and then this last far right connection point goes to channel 1 on your receiver. The next steps are to actually calibrate the gyro itself. So controller's on, so we're going to power on the car itself. You notice the gyro is going to go through some blinks and some everything. You have to always leave a Futaba gyro alone for the first few seconds while it does a calibration. So I have controller on. I see a red LED, which means it's in AVCS mode, which means it should be in slow return. What we're going to look at first is, all right, so left and right still work appropriately as we would expect. First thing we're going to check is the gyro reversed or not? So if I move the rear towards the camera, the front should counter steer towards me. And it's not, so the gyro is working in reverse operation. So we're going to turn this off. We're going to use the switch, the little handy thing that they provide, and this first switch here, we're going to flip it into reverse. Power back up, let it go through its initialization. Once you see that twitch, go full one direction, full the other. Now let's see. You can see that slow steering return. That's because red, we're in that AVCS mode. Now, the gyro works in the direction that we want it to, which is great. The next step is actually on your controller to set the steering trim if you need to. Looking at mine, it is fine, but I will warn you that if you adjust steering trim on your controller, you need to power off, power back on to let the gyro reinitialize. What we're going to go to next is the steering limit. So this little potentiometer on the gyro itself right here is actually going to be used to set our steering limits. What we're going to do is use, again, this controller. You don't want to overextend your servo, and if you see, I can come in here and I can turn too much. So I'm going to turn the wheel, and I'm actually going to turn the steering down until I start to see the steering back off. You see that? Wheel's not moving. So I'm going to set the limit with the gyro. Okay, now we're going to check it on the other side. Now lastly, we're going to go in here to my settings for the gyro. And right now I'm sitting at 70% positive, and it's showing me the red light for the AVCS mode. So I'm going to turn it to 0. And at 0, the light on the gyro has now gone off at center. That tells me now that the gyro does not move, does not operate. This is a good check to make sure that you're actually controlling the gyro with your third channel. So now if I put the gyro into, let's say, -70, you'll see I have a green light over here. I don't know if you can actually see that or not. We have a green light on the gyro. That means we're in normal mode, and you'll see that the steering returns back fast instead of slow. It's actually not super fast, is it? It still has a little bit of slow in it either way. So now we're going to do a quick test in my garage of the normal versus AVCS mode to see how we feel that difference is.
Thank you.
That is a really, really good gyro. If you follow the channel, you'll know I'm actually a huge fan of this gyro's predecessor, which is the GYD450. And it has always been, like, we call it the easy button. You put it in a car, no matter what's going on, it makes it easier to drive. My son, even recently, driving his Yokomo, went from driving the Yokomo DP302 V4 gyro to the Futaba GYD450, the older version of this. And he was like, wow, that's so much better to drive now. So always been a huge fan of the GYD450. Kind of sad when I started to see it disappearing out of the market and the GYD550 coming in. Because the GYD550 was really, really good. It's also really, really complicated. And I found a lot of people really struggling with trying to figure out how to get that gyro to work. This 470 is coming in right in the middle. It has supposedly some of that brain logic, you know, new features that are in the 550, but yet in the easy setup that you just saw from the 450 that really is not very hard at all. With this gyro, it's interesting, I'd actually prefer the normal mode instead of the AVCS mode with this gyro in this car. It felt like the AVCS mode, I had to steer it more than I would have expected in the situations that I was in. I had to really fight the wheel more than I expected, turning the wheel more, steering into the corner more than I really thought I should have had to. And the normal mode, it just felt almost kind of like the old 450 did with AVCS on. But I don't want to just leave this right here, because in the garage is always one feel. When you get to a bigger surface, it's always a different feel. So I want to head out to my buddy's carpet track outside, bigger place, and see what this car feels like with this gyro in it. from the track, final thoughts on this Futaba GYD470. It's really good. The curiosity that I still have with this GYD470 is the AVCS mode. You know, it doesn't feel like, in the non-AVCS mode, it doesn't really feel like a non-AVCS gyro. It still feels like it's AVCS. So like you kind of have the old GYD450 non-AVCS mode, and then its 450 AVCS is kind of where this 470 non-AVCS is. And then when you put the 470 into AVCS mode, it feels odd. And I don't know why, and I don't know what that is. And while we were testing that on that track that we had, I handed it to the controller over to the other two gentlemen that were there with me, made them drive the car, both AVCS and non-AVCS. And one of them was like me. You turn the AVCS on, we almost couldn't even make it around a corner. The other one loved it. So it does definitely provide a different feel, like a noticeably different feel. And depending on your driving style, it is clearly something that you would want to make sure you have the ability to turn on or off. I feel that this GYD470 is very predictable. I can put the car within millimeters of where I want it to be. It is honestly going to be the gyro that I now recommend to the majority of folks who want to put a good quality gyro into their RC drift car. We're really fortunate right now in the drift market. There's some really good gyros out there that are available, and they're all at a relatively reasonable price. So if I had to put them up there, the Rev D, which is the Revox that I've been running, honestly is a really good gyro. So it's up there at the top along with this GYD 470 and its predecessor, the 450, if you still can find the 450 in stock anywhere. I haven't personally ever been able to tune the GYD 550. Now, I've driven someone's car with the 550, and it is really good and very precise and very tunable, but it's really truly that, like, the pinnacle is the GYD 550. Right there at that next level now, the Rev D, this GYD 470, the GYD 450, I think all of those are really, really good. You know, and then you get into, I'm honestly not as big of a fan of the Yokomo DP302 V4, so I put it just slightly down below. But really, at the end of the day, this is a very good gyro. And I think it's one that would be accommodating for most users. If you follow the channel, you know I actually really enjoy testing gyros and different drift parts. So in my drift playlist over here, you'll actually be able to scroll through and find a bunch of different gyro tests that I've done over time. So you can look at different alternatives and options that you have when you're looking for gyros. So I will see you in that next video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.